Hey, Nida. Oh, my mom is joined. Fatima. Sorry, guys, we're just waiting on Maheen. She's going to be joining us as soon as she can. Hello, Khadija. Raheen. Fatima. Sorry, I'm just going to keep reading them off until Maheen joins. Thanks, Mama. Thanks to my Khala, she's joined. And Xiao's here. Sorry, guys, just hold on a minute or two. Just waiting for... This is weird. Okay, she said she was ready. My husband has joined. Okay, great. Okay, so Maheen, I need for you to... Okay, here we go.
Hi, how are
Hey,
you?
good. How are you, Maheen?
I'm good. It's so nice and bright where you are. I
Oh, don't
feel
worry.
like,
I have all... Because it's Houston, in
yeah.
June, it's about probably like 100 degrees outside and the sun is
Oh, wow.
right here always.
Yeah. But
I
it's
have...
really hot over here as well.
It is. Oh, God. You look fantastic as always. Hold on, we're having a little bit of connection issues. Oh no, Maheen. Okay, I think Maheen's having some connection issues, so we're going to give... Okay, let's see.
I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. I'm not so good at this, so I hope it stays.
It's
Yeah.
it's a
Is it working?
totally... Yes, totally. Okay.
I was just trying to fix the phone and then something went wrong.
Okay, so Maheen, this is the
All
first
right.
time you and I are actually talking face to face,
Yeah.
and I'm really excited about everyone that's joined us. And I know so much about you, and I know all the Pakistanis know so much about you. And first, I'd like to introduce you to everyone that's watching. This is Maheen Ghani, formerly known as Maheen Ghani Tasir. Um, Her face was all over TV and magazines about 6, 7 years ago. For you stood by your in-laws after your ex-husband was kidnapped.
Yeah.
And before that, I believe you were always the socialite and it girl anyway. So a lot of girls aspired to be like you, look like you.
That's so
You
sweet.
have really nice fashion sense. And um, I know that a lot of people looked up to you during those 5 years you waited for your ex-husband. You were
Yeah.
so courageous and you were so loyal to your in-laws. And I've read so much about you. I know you're known as the pride of Pakistan because of your bravery.
Oh,
And
thank you so much.
also, I would like for you, your story is so unique. And today, everybody, Maheen is a single mom. She's a designer and she's a psychologist. She does it all. And, such an inspiration. And I want you to
Thank
tell
you so
your
much.
story yourself.
Yeah, so I think when you have passion for something and you're able to follow through with that, you're going to be good at that. And passion has always been um, that kind of passion for me. I've always loved doing that. I've loved creating clothes, and at the same time, just studying about the human mind, wanting to know more is also something that interested me. And so that's what I studied in college and did my master's in. And I'm so glad that I'm able to kind of follow through with both those things that are a passion to me so closely. And yeah, I've had a journey that has not always been easy, but I think that has taught me a lot. It has, like I always say, turned me into a more secure, happier version of myself, because I think adversity also tells you so much about yourself, your resilience, how to cope in situations, and it kind of equips you to handle life better and to be grateful for everything that you have. And so I don't have any regrets. I'm just happy where I am, and I have this beautiful, amazing daughter and a very supportive family. And so,
Oh,
yeah, I'm very blessed, mashallah.
mashallah. No, of course. And I really like hearing that from you because I know a lot of people sit there and say, like, oh, why did this happen to me? And,
Yeah,
I waited, I was loyal, I was this, I was that. And then you go through, life throws hurdles at you.
yeah,
And I think God tests those he loves. So um, to see how resilient you are is very encouraging
thank
for
you.
Pakistani women. And I
Yeah,
want you to talk about like, okay, so I watch a lot of your IG TV. Very
yeah,
impressed by you.
thank you.
Very articulate. Everybody go watch Maheen on her IG stories. You'll learn so much. I've been learning so much about, like yesterday, you talked about stonewalling,
Yeah,
narcissistic personality, gaslighting. These are things that I believe like just women globally don't even
no,
understand.
yeah, because I think that we're never taught that, right? Like, growing up, I never knew these terms. I never understood what emotional abuse is. Like, yes, we know about physical abuse and we know about sexual abuse, and on some level we understand that people can verbally abuse us, but I never knew what emotional abuse is. Yes, we know a little bit about like manipulation and like bigger terms, but we don't know the many forms that emotional abuse comes in. And I feel like unless you don't know, you're not going to be able to recognize that it's happening to you. And it's these small things that I think, especially us women, go through over the course of our life without understanding what exactly is happening to us, what we're going through, not being able to cope, spending your life blaming yourselves. And I think that that needs to change. And I think people like us have to start having those conversations, changing the stigma around mental health and what's important, and being able to prioritize yourself. Like, yes, you are a mother and a daughter and a sister
Mm-hmm.
and a wife, but where are you personally in all of this? Who are you? And I do speak to so many women that just they don't even remember who they were, or who they are, or what they like, or what they didn't like, because they're so invested in other relationships that they're no longer invested in themselves. And I think your journey to like self-love and healing begins with yourself. If you can't love yourself and if you can't prioritize yourself, then other people are not going to be able to love you, and you're not going to be able to fully invest in other relationships also, until you learn how to prioritize yourself. And I think that's a very important lesson that I learned, and I think that that's why it has encouraged me to create awareness, especially on topics that are not discussed and are not talked about.
Mm-hmm. Like I totally agree with you because when we're brought up, we're daughters, right? And then our
Yeah,
parents think about getting us married. And our
yeah,
career is, as a South Asian, Pakistani, like career was never like the first thing. It's more like, you get married and,
yeah,
from then you move on to your husband's house and
yeah,
then you have in-laws and then you have your husband. And then when you have a child, you are a
yeah,
mother. And
yeah,
I totally agree with you. That is why I started blogging because of this.
Yeah.
where our identity is like
Where's our
displaced.
identity?
Hmm.
Exactly. Where are we? What do we like? Have we forgotten who we were? We keep losing parts of ourselves. And I, on some level, I feel like we allow that to happen to us, right?
Oh,
We allow
absolutely. We take the
we
back seat.
allow ourselves to be in that space. Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, because a lot of even women across, even culturally, there's a lot of, stigma with divorce and single moms and all
Yeah.
this stuff. And I'm not going to lie, as educated as we are, it is 2020. And as progressive as we like to be, if
Yeah.
someone is being abused, the first reaction of the mother-in-law, your father, your mother has always been like, oh, try to make it work.
Yeah.
And I think that psychologically messes with the woman's mind because she is belittled in that process that her feelings don't matter. And
Yeah.
I wanted to know from your side, like coming from such a high profile family, how did you find the strength and courage to just walk away from everything?
Well, I'm gonna be honest. I think it's never easy, and it wasn't easy, and it takes you time to be able to get to that point. Obviously, my situation was a bit different because for so long, I was actually living there without my husband, and I felt
Hmm.
this sense of um, I felt this sense of loyalty that I owe to myself and to him, to be there and stay there for him and wait for him as a wife. But you're right. I think we are conditioned in certain ways to just tolerate whatever happens and stay silent. And, like you said, bas bardash karo, jo bhi hai, silently
Hmm.
bardash karo. And so, on a subconscious level, even if we know better because we're strong women and we understand it, we we can sometimes fall prey to that, and I think it happens to so many of us where we say no, 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 but bardash karo, and there's so much of that self blame of like, am I to blame, because there's so much happening to you, right? There's,
Hmm.
like I said, there's gaslighting and passive aggressiveness, and there's manipulation and there's control, and you somewhere there, especially if you're going through a trauma, you do tend to blame yourself, and I think that happens to so many women, and we just suffer in silence. But I think eventually with self-awareness, and I think with me, I was lucky because I had such a strong support system. And on some level, I guess I had studied this and I did value myself, and I knew I needed to prioritize myself. And especially when I became a mother, I think it became that
Hmm.
much more important to me. For making sure that the environment that my daughter grows in is one where she understands what love is, what respect is, what communication is, what loyalty means, like what a relationship should be like, and and so that was one of the reasons why I took this step, where I think when you finally realize that nothing is worth losing yourself for, nothing, and there comes a point in your life where you have to take a stand for yourself, you have to protect yourself, you have to protect those you love, especially if you have a child. And essentially that's what I thought about, of what kind of future I want for my daughter, of how I want her to grow up to be, of how I want her to view me. I want her to view me as somebody strong who is able to take a stand for herself, who is able to be self-sufficient emotionally, financially, and show her what a loving, nurturing environment looks like.
Hmm. That's very important. And I was going to ask you the emotional toll. You're very well put together, and I love that you talk so much about psychological issues. And were there times when you would think twice, like, I don't, I don't want to go through that. Like, lo kya kenge? My daughter's going to grow up in a split home, and what kind of relationship is she going to have with your in-laws and then your family and all that?
Yeah, of course. And that pressure is always there where even people close to you will say, no, but try and work it out and try to do it for your child. And
Hmm.
and yes, and I did think of that, and I did, and
Hmm.
there were times where I said, you know what, I'm gonna like try and go through this and do this for my daughter, because again, so much conditioning, right? But
Absolutely.
but again, you have to be able to get to a point where you realize um, that any situation like that, which is unhealthy or toxic or gives you anxiety, is not a healthy place for you. And if you can't be happy, your child will never be happy. And I'd rather that my child grows up in a healthy home rather than a dysfunctional home where she either sees two people not getting along and not respecting each other. Because I think हमें हमेशा कहा जाता है, and we're always told, like children from broken families, and they're so dysfunctional, and that's not true. I have personally, even through through my experience as a psychologist, dealt with so many children who have come from, in that sense, that nuclear family in that home, but there can have so many dysfunctionalities, because if you see a toxic, unhealthy relationship, it will be learned behavior. Children also blame themselves. They can't understand why perhaps their parents don't get along, or if a joint family system, why that dynamics is so dysfunctional, and they blame themselves. It's learned behavior. When they see dysfunctional relationships, they will also attract dysfunctional relationships, and kind of attract that in people and go for dysfunctional relationships. So I don't agree with this at all. I feel like it's much better for a child to have two healthy homes, and two sets of parents that are healthy and happy, rather than two dysfunctional parents who may be fighting or not getting along and can't communicate. And that's all that the child will learn. That's all that the child will know. And I think that's another thing that we have to change. Staying in a marriage does not save your children. It actually damages them even more. And you can be in separate homes and co-parent and respect each other. And again, regardless of what your relationship is with your ex-partner, you still have to, on some level, respect that your child is still connected to them, is still related to them. And for that reason, it's important to also not talk negatively about that ex-partner, because again, they have their own relationship. You can't micromanage relationships. Children are very resilient, and they have to build their relationship themselves. So you can't taint that. You have to just be that nurturing, consistent parent for your child, and let them go through whatever they need to go through. And at the same time, not taint their view of either parent.
Of course, I know. And I've spoken to, I'm not going to lie. So this is very dear to my heart, and I love empowering people. I feel like I've been through so much in my life. If I'm not sure if you've followed me on my blog or whatnot, but I always want to help somebody. Like, if someone is suffering in a marriage or whatnot, I don't want to give them the wrong advice. I always say, seek therapy, go to a therapist.
100%. Yeah.
And I think that's something that in Pakistanis, I love that you're a psychologist. I love that you give these advice. And it's such a taboo in Pakistani society to see a psychologist. And
it is because they're so scared of being labeled, and therefore they rather just spend their life silently suffering. It's something so fundamental to understand, is that, and I always say this to people: if you have an infection or a cough or a flu, you will rush to the doctor. But why wouldn't you want to look after your mind in the same way? If you're suffering through something, it's not your fault, but you still have to be able to protect yourself. And there's no shame in seeking help, seeking professional help, because that person will be better equipped to help you and help you deal with whatever you're going through, small or big. Everybody's threshold is different. And especially if you're suffering through a mental illness or depression, anxiety, sometimes you can't help it. Sometimes it can be genetic. It's actually an illness, much like any other illness. So why wouldn't you want to seek help? And that goes for couples as well. Sometimes it helps to get couples therapy, because an outside perspective can maybe tap into that rational, logical brain of yours and make you understand things that you may not understand on your own otherwise. So I think that taboo and that stigma has to change, especially in countries like ours, like Pakistan, where suddenly they'll just say, nahi, 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 hum main to nahi, because I don't want to be labeled, and no, I don't want to be able to seek help. So again, like, even if you're in that situation, you don't want to seek help, seek out support. You should always have a support system. Talk to somebody that you trust. Talk to somebody that is willing to listen, because sometimes all we need is to be heard. All we need is our feelings to be validated. And so even if you're not in that space where you think you can get professional help, reach out to somebody that you love and care about. There will always be somebody willing to listen. You will be heard. There's always hope and love. So don't ever feel alone. You're not alone in this. And it's so, so important for us to give up that message. There's no shame, and you are not alone. So reach out for help.
Like a country like Pakistan, I would say, so even in Houston, there's a lot of joint family systems, and the women may not work, and they're being abused. We hear stories, I'm part of organizations that help out. What are when is, I mean, everyone has, I guess, their threshold, like when is enough, when enough is enough, that thing. And also, did you get backlash? I've read a lot of, you've received a lot of support, you know, which is, obviously we all support you, and what you did is commendable. But have you been receiving, I'm sure secretly, like backlash and whatnot? And how does that psychologically affect you? And I feel people are afraid of the backlash
I know,
more than
I know.
anything.
So to answer your first question again, everybody's threshold for pain is different. I think every situation is different. A lot of times, women stay in bad marriages or relationships because they don't have financial support, they don't have family support. So again, everything kind of varies. Of course, physical abuse is somewhere where you should absolutely draw the line because your life is at risk and you have to be able to protect yourself. And if children are involved, but again, having said that, emotional abuse is just as damaging to your mind and your body and your soul. And again, until you don't have awareness and until you don't know that you deserve better and that life can get better, you're going to stay stuck in those situations. If you are being emotionally abused, if you feel a relationship is toxic, anything that makes you feel unworthy, if you're anxious, if you feel like in a relationship it's toxic, you're not being heard, you have to walk around eggshells, you're being
Mm-hmm.
gaslighted, you're being shamed, you owe it to yourself to show up for yourself. Times are changing, and that's why, coming back to me, I think again I was very blessed. I think, like I said, even in Pakistan, that stigma is changing. I had a lot of support from my friends, from my family. There will always be backlash. There will always be people that will, do smear campaigns against you and try and bring you down. But I think, ultimately, if you have that support system and you have that surety of self and self-care and self-love in ways that you have to protect yourself regardless of what somebody else says, I think that actually, if anything, this process is so liberating. It is so empowering for you to know that you were able to take that stand for yourself. And again, what people say about you and what they think about you and their projections, it doesn't say anything about you. It's not about you. If people want to talk about you or attack
Mm-hmm.
you or shame you, it says more about them than it does about you. Everybody has their own internal wounds that sometimes they project on other people, which is why you have to be self-assured yourself. You have to know that you are enough for yourself. And it doesn't matter if people have bad things to say about you. Everybody has their own opinions. You can't spend your life. Everybody's not always going to love you. But you have to be able to love yourself, because when you're able to love yourself, then you attract the right kind of people. And I think that is what has happened with me. A lot of toxic people in my life were filtered out. I'm surrounded by people that support me, that love me, that are so positive for my growth, for me to evolve with them. And that has been really, really helpful. And that's why it's so important to be able to at least um, heal in a way that you know you are enough for yourself, because that is, like I said, so empowering. When you stay in that zone of being a victim and look what happened to me and why did that happen, and addictively, repeatedly talking about your problems and complaining, you stay in that zone. So at some point, you have to become responsible about your life, your emotions, and regain your power back. Be able to say, you know what happened to me was terrible, it was traumatic, what people did to me, the
Mm-hmm.
emotional abuse I went through, the trauma I went through was really, really hard. Validate yourself, but then being able to say, you know what, it happened, I'm in control of my life back. I'm going to regain my control back. I'm not going to have those people who may have emotionally abused me have control over me anymore, and I will become responsible for my life. Stop
So
the blame and just become responsible for your own emotions and process those emotions while you're going through whatever you may be suffering from.
So I feel like from you, you have a great support system, which is so amazing. And everybody, you know, try to be around positive people. Anyone that tries to bring you down, they're they're not looking out for you. But I was going to ask you, so we have a lot of foundations and groups in America and, you know, globally. Are there foundations or places where women could secretly, even men can secretly seek out like help, about, you know, like I'm being abused, I don't know how to leave. We have abuse centers here that help women from like start to finish, how to like help them. I'm not sure if that's something that's very needed in Pakistan or.
It
Like,
really is, but unfortunately, we don't have that. And again, I'm so glad you said that because I think where we talk about women, and for them to be able to express themselves and their needs, I feel the same for men. Especially in Pakistan, a man has to be a man. He can't cry. He can't talk about his emotions. He can't seek help. And again, men are equally vulnerable. They go through the same emotions. They can go through traumatic experiences, and they need support too. And sometimes it's easier for us to ask for help and have that support system, and they don't. But we don't have foundations like that in Pakistan. I know it is changing now. During this pandemic, there was, I've forgotten, maybe it was the Ministry of Health that has a helpline that you can reach out to
mhm.
if you're going through domestic abuse. And I'm sure cases of domestic abuse and child abuse have really, really become much higher during this
Yes.
time. But we still need better foundations because I don't know how well equipped they are. And and while you're going through any trauma in your life, it's very isolating and it's hard. And even if you
Mhm.
take in account situations like divorce or leaving toxic marriages or relationships, it is alienating. You feel it's hard. You feel lonely. So I wish there were some platforms that could help you through this process. And I think that's why I'm doing what I'm doing also. In just creating awareness and letting people know that you are not alone, that you're not alone in your suffering, and to be able to take strength from somebody else who has suffered, and knowing that speaking out helps, reaching out for help is really, really essential so that you don't feel so isolated and lonely, because it's so easy to go into that rabbit hole and not being able to get out.
Of course, because all we see on the internet are like happy pictures of like couples and their kids and
Yeah,
whatnot. And I have a lot of friends who have gone through divorces. I'm very vocal about mine. I was divorced very early in my life. It was a bad
really.
situation. Sometimes I think about, God, why did I go through that? Maybe I would have been a different person, but I think I would have still been an introvert. It made me become bold and protect myself. Um,
How did you cope with that, and then where did you find strength to just deal
so
with everything? Because mashallah, I see,
honestly,
and you're so strong, and it's amazing what you're doing.
you're so sweet. I was young, and my mother was very strong, and my sister was very strong. So I have to give it to my family.
Yeah.
My mom was like, no, this isn't right. You have to leave now before,
And
like,
I'm so
you have,
glad that
yes.
that 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 now parents are also realizing how crucial it is to be able to take that stand for your children, to be able to say, you know what, you don't have to put up with this. We are here, we will support you, and you can take that step for yourself
Hmm.
rather than just saying, you know what, just deal with it and stay.
Uh-oh. Oh, yeah, there you go.
I mean,
It's okay.
I don't know what
So
happened.
no, it just paused there for a second.
Can
But
you
I
hear
was
me?
going to say,
Yeah.
what I love about you is that
Okay.
you hold your head up high. A lot of women, when they go through this, they're like, oh my God, I can't go
I don't.
out, I can't see people, you know. And just what advice would
Yeah.
you give people? Like, how did you get the courage? I know you have a family background that's supporting you. Um, One thing my mom did
I
say
think.
was either I held my head up high or I go into hiding for life. So I decided to go
I
ahead,
mean,
hold my head up
I
high.
just have one question, like, why the shame? There should be no shame. There's no
Hmm.
shame to this. There should be no guilt. And I know, especially for single moms, there's so much guilt in terms of like, oh, my child, and what will my child go through, and what will I go through? Um, and when you're going through something like that, again, I really want to emphasize on the fact that you should allow yourself to feel, allow yourself to process the emotions. It's not an overnight healing that just happens. Allow yourself to feel those emotions. If you're feeling grief, or you want to mourn that relationship, or you want to feel sad, validate that, go through that process, because unless you shut emotions out and don't go through that process, you won't be able to come out of it and heal from it. You'll just stay in that space of pain. So it's okay to cry, it's okay to feel those emotions, it's okay to feel angry, it's okay to have blame, but then find a way to heal from it, accept it, and come out. And I think that's exactly what I did, and that is what's helped me so much, because there is no shame. I do feel like I did what is right by me. I did what's right for my daughter, and I feel proud of the fact that I was able to do that for myself. And I hope that other
You're a
people can
little
take
blurry.
strength. Sorry,
Sorry.
can you hear
Sorry,
me?
I like interrupted you. I'm like, you're a little blurry right now.
Is it better now? So yeah, so just um like I said, you have to be able to trust yourself to be making the right decision. Don't live in that space of doubt. Don't live in that space of guilt. You have to do what's right by you. And instinctively, we always know what is right and what is wrong for us when something is too much, when you don't want to put up with any kind of abuse or any kind of a toxic situation. You know when it's enough. And if you're in a situation where you don't have that support, then start planning your life a little bit. Make yourself financially secure. Get yourself to that point where you're able to take that stand for yourself. Even in the hardest situations, productively find solutions to your issues. Because
Mm-hmm.
again, we're so used to that negative self-talk and telling ourselves that negative story and staying demotivated. You have to be able to fight that. You have to be able to fight that for yourself. And
Sorry,
again,
Maheen, I'm going to stop you for 1 second. You're a
yeah.
little blurry again.
Can you hear me though?
I can hear you.
Or okay.
We,
I don't
you,
know. I
you're,
don't know what's wrong.
I don't know what the video, it's strange, but I can totally hear you. Can you see yourself?
I can.
Okay. All right, we'll figure
And
this
I
out.
really again do think that we have to start having those hard conversations. Um, Parents, especially women, have to start raising better sons that understand accountability and respect. And um, and all of that has to change. Our women are evolving. There's already so much pressure on them, but our men have to change. They have to realize and understand what a relationship entails. And I don't think that's happening enough, especially in places like Pakistan, where we are forced into joint family systems. You're not married to the
Hmm.
man, you're married to the whole family, and it's
Oh,
so
yes.
hard. There's no privacy. You are not allowed to be who you are. It chips into your who you are, your personality. There's so much pressure. It's so hard. And I deal with so many women, and believe it or not, their complaints are more about the joint family and what the family is making them go through, um, and not even as much as their husbands, because it's just and like you said, it's more so in our culture, and it's so unhealthy
Hmm.
if you think about it. Like, you get married to the person and you should have that independent
Hmm.
relationship with them, but that's not the case in our societies. And I think that's what makes marriages, especially these days, that much harder. There's so much pressure, there's so much involvement. You're never just married to the person, and because you're in that vulnerable state, people often think that they can treat you however you want because you have brought that girl into your home, not for her to be treated like a daughter in that home, but oftentimes just, yeah, it's really really sad.
No, I can't even imagine. I have never lived in a joint family system. I mean, but we understand in America, like we have that whole like, sussral and to please them and whatnot. And
And don't get me
they do
wrong.
play a hand. Sometimes they do
Yeah, I mean,
play a
don't get me
hand
wrong.
in
Some
messing up your
are,
relationship.
yeah, I mean, don't get me
Sorry.
wrong. Some are absolutely amazing, and this is not to say that you shouldn't have respect
Oh,
and
no, no, no.
compassion.
I completely
Of
agree with
course, you
you.
should always have respect and compassion, but sometimes it actually becomes too toxic, and we don't know how to create boundaries. We don't know, because sometimes we think by creating a boundary, are we being disrespectful? But that's not the case, and that's one of the things um I try and instill in people, but they don't understand, right? Because they think that if you try and create a boundary and take a stand for yourself, then that's you being selfish or you being disrespectful. And
Mm-mm.
and boundaries can be done in many ways. You can have respect and compassion and respect, but still have that space for yourself. And there are no boundaries, especially in these kind of relationships, which is why sometimes it becomes so toxic. And this is not to generalize, but a lot of times it does happen.
No, and you know what? It doesn't even have to be like joint family system. It's our culture itself.
It's
And
culture, yeah.
and I feel like the man is put under a lot of pressure too to please a family that he brought in the girl, especially if he chose a girl and they brought.
Especially he chose for, yeah,
Yes, there's a lot of pressure that comes with that.
yeah,
And that's when I feel like, as a psychologist, that's so important. Go see therapy, go talk to somebody, get help. It's
yeah,
not, don't mistreat your wife to please your mom or your dad or your sister or your brother,
yeah,
or don't take it out, don't lash out on your spouse. She did come from her home to your home to be taken
Yeah, I
care of.
mean, she essentially left her home to be in your home, and I think the least that she can get is respect and some compassion and some empathy for that. But that's really lacking, unfortunately. That's what I've seen. It's really, really lacking. They feel like they can, in so many ways, and again, right? You don't know what is happening to you when you're being gaslighted and when you're being just abused in so many ways, and
So
it's not much
explain.
later.
I'm so sorry. I hate interrupting you, but you use like these words that I really want you to talk about because majority of our viewers may not know the meaning of them. So gaslighting. You said when you're being gaslighted. Can you give
Gaslighting
an
is when
example to our viewers what gaslighting means?
Right. So gaslighting is when somebody kind of makes you doubt yourself and your perception of.
Hold on, guys.
You're so like me to this. They will project on you, crazy person, make you doubt your perception of reality. And that's gaslighting, where they're just, and it's a tool of manipulation. It's like isolation and it's passive aggressive comments, and they say things to demean you, right? They'll say things like, nobody likes you, and you're too sensitive, and you just don't understand things, and you're too dumb, and you make me be this horrible person. And no, I wasn't screaming. You probably thought I'm screaming, but if I was screaming, you deserved it, and it was your fault. That's gaslighting.
Okay. Yes. And I know a lot of people don't understand that, and they when they hear these things said by men or women, like, "Oh, it's because of you," you automatically
and then
feel like,
and it
"Oh."
makes you blame yourself, right? Because you can't understand it, and then you
Mhm.
doubt yourself. You're like, wow, did it really happen? Because they say it with so much surety, where you're like, yeah, maybe they're right, maybe I am the problem, maybe everybody doesn't like me. They create that doubt in your mind, and that doubt makes you more vulnerable. It makes you more susceptible towards abuse. And when you doubt yourself, and when you're in that space of being so vulnerable, you put up with a lot of bad behavior as well, because you're too vulnerable. You have that fear of abandonment. You feel like you're not good enough, and you then also go into this abusive cycle of wanting to prove yourself and get approval from your abuser. So it's just a very vicious cycle. You get trauma bonded to your abuser. You stay in that state of cognitive dissonance, which I've also talked about, where one day they're nice to you and one day they're not. And doesn't just have to be your spouse or your partner. A lot of families are very dysfunctional in that way.
Hmm. Of course.
And again, we don't know that, right? We don't realize that.
No, of course not, because sometimes you're raised in that environment and you think that's normal, like
You
talking
think
to
it's not.
someone
You think like you
degrading.
deserve it. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's why I think some parents should have been divorced a long time ago because then their child grows up to with those same qualities. And I think
Yep.
giving your child a healthy home with, you know, good qualities and morals is very, very important.
Because see, when they are growing up in that environment, and obviously if they're in such a toxic environment, there'll be so many needs that won't be met. And as a child, if your needs are not met, again, that has very damaging effects. You can develop avoidant behaviors. You can develop codependency. You can develop even narcissistic personality disorders, because those are all like ways of like defense mechanism, where a child doesn't know how to protect themselves, so they find ways to protect themselves. And again, that's extremely damaging. um, and that's what they look for in relationships in the future as well, which is why I always say it's so important, even as a child, for your children, to validate them, be there for them, be that nurturing caregiver for them, and give them a solid foundation, so that they don't feel like they have to seek love or admiration externally, or any kind of validation externally, because they're getting that in their home.
Absolutely, 100%. So, as a psychologist, do you do therapy sessions, or are you just IGTV only and educating people? Is that what
No, no,
your
no. I do.
platform is?
I do one-on-one therapy sessions as well.
Oh, wow.
Especially, I feel like we really needed that with
Hmm.
everything that we're going through globally, and that's why I started doing IGTV videos as well, to create awareness. And I do online sessions as well, because I really, really think that everybody, um, needs to be heard, and everybody needs that help, no matter how small or big it is, whether you're having anxiety or you're feeling uncertain. Sometimes people just want to be heard, sometimes they just need assurance, sometimes they just need to be to get that second perspective. So yeah, especially in times like this when we're all feeling so vulnerable, I think it's essential to be able to reach out and talk to someone. So
Absolutely. I think mental health is number one. You can't function.
it's number
And
one.
as a designer, I'm sure you can relate to that. Like your mindset has to be in a certain place to be able to be a designer at the same time.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
how do you balance? What's like a daily
Oh,
routine in Maheen Ghani's life?
so yeah, so these days I'm home therapy sessions, and I'm really, really grateful. I have such a wonderful team in MGT, Maheen Ghani Trends. And so previously, of course, all my stuff was at home because I think safety first. But now that the lockdown has eased down, they're back at work. We're working on our bread collection that will be coming out soon. So that happens simultaneously.
Great.
And this, again, I used to do it. I was practicing before, and then because I was going through so much trauma personally, I took a break for a while, and now I'm doing it again, and I really enjoy it. And I like being able to reach out to people, and I like being able to help people. I think being able to give in that way is so satisfying. It's not only rewarding, it's just so satisfying because we have to be able to change our community. We have to be able to change those stigmas, and we as women also have to begin to support one another,
Mm-hmm.
so that our children have a better world where they don't have to fight for things that we have had to fight for. And I think that's changing, right? Like you and I are sitting here having
Absolutely.
a conversation about what emotional abuse is and being able to take a stand for yourself. And I think
Oh my
that's a
God,
step,
yes.
that's a big step forward. And
Yeah, for sure. Especially on live, like, being two Pakistani women, it's something
we're
that,
connected, like you're there, I'm here. It's so wonderful, right? Like we're able
yeah,
to connect on so many levels and
of
talk about
course.
things that are so, so important.
And of course, we have to give a shout out to our friend Pashmina.
Of course
So
we do. I don't know if
Pashmina's the one that
she's up in the mountains, so I don't know if she's
I
tuned in,
know.
but we have to
I
give her a
know.
shout.
She was like, I'll try to watch if I can, but she's the one, she promotes you a lot. I know you guys are very good friends.
We're
And
very, very close. Yeah. She's again such a strong, self-made person, and I
yeah.
really, really admire her for that. And like I said, right, when you have that energy, you attract the right people, you surround
Mhm.
yourself with the right kind of people, and then women find women that support each other and able to help each other. So she's an incredible, incredible person, and great, and has been great support for me as well.
And I wanted to ask you, how are you so down to earth? You're very down to earth. You're very easy to talk to.
I'm oh, I'm so
Yes, you
happy to
are.
hear that.
And
You know what the
I'm
funny
not
thing
gonna lie
is?
to you because I followed you through, like, obviously we watch Geo, like, oh, Maheen Ghani, and then, I see you're so gorgeous, your pictures and on magazines. What you're just so normal and down to earth, and you don't have an ounce of like this egotistical arrogance in you at all, which
That
I
that
really admire.
that honestly means so much to me. I think that's the greatest compliment that anybody can give to me. And I know growing up, because I am a little bit reserved,
Hmm.
people would always think that maybe I'm unapproachable or I'm too arrogant. But I think once people get to know me, they see me for who I am. But I'm so glad that you said that, because that honestly means a lot. And I think these are the things that kind of make us human and make us who they are, just the humility that we can have and the empathy that we can have within us. And those are the values that I want to instill in my daughter as well. And honestly, that is the best compliment somebody can give me,
No, she's
that
very, very
that I
blessed to
can
have you
connect
as a
to
mother.
people. And
Oh.
so are you are so easy to talk to, and I feel like I've known, it's the first time we're talking, but I feel like I've known you forever. It's
I
so easy
know.
and like fun to talk to you.
No, you're so sweet. I'm so happy we connected. I'm so happy we did this. And I wanted everybody to see this side of you, Maheen Ghani, like you just down to earth psychologist, helping the world. And, just because you're this beautiful model does not mean you're making a difference. And
Yeah, I feel like
I,
I just want to be able to make a difference however we do it. There were some people asking some questions too,
yes,
if you just wanted to quickly go through that. I don't know, but I
I was
saw,
just going to ask you that.
yeah.
Let's see. What are the questions?
Just before we finish, maybe we can answer a few
How do you
questions
find
really
the
quick.
right people?
I think innately, internally, you always know when someone is toxic or demeaning or putting you down, and you feel the energy and you don't feel good around them, and they say passive aggressive things. You always can sense if somebody's toxic. So my advice is trust your gut, trust your instinct. It's never wrong. And if you feel that you're not vibing with somebody and their energy, um, just gut contact. Obviously, sometimes it's family members or we can't for so many reasons, but minimize contact. Any relationship that makes you feel uneasy, unsettled, anxious is not a healthy relationship. So you have to be able to trust yourself on that and cut out toxic people. They're not going to change. It's you don't deserve to have that in your life. You deserve, even if it's 3 people or 2 people, you deserve authentic, good people in your life that you can evolve with, and that can make you feel good about yourself, and not a relationship where you're always a giver and just over exhausted. Any relationship has to be a two-way relationship. So as long as you have that, I think that's the most important thing.
Absolutely. And if anyone else has any more questions for Maheen, please do ask us right now. You have the moment. Let's see.
Somebody had asked about anxiety. I don't know. Let me
Someone said
see.
something about anxiety. I've been looking through these. Mental health is
Yeah.
important in the world. Let's see.
What is your advice on social anxiety instilled by
Okay.
shaming? So yes, now with social media and everybody's just hiding behind their keyboards, there's so much shaming, there's so much hatred, there's so much cyberbullying, because it's just so easy to do that, right? There's so much easy access. Again, you have to be able to get to a place where you're so sure of yourself that you're able to blur out the noises. If somebody is shaming you, again, that says more about them. They're projecting on you their own internal demons. You cannot let somebody else and their words become your reality. You have to be self-assured enough to know, you know what, they're saying this, it's not my problem, it's not about me. And you cannot allow somebody else and their words to affect you, impact you, and give them that much power over you. If somebody's shaming you, again, that is their own internal demons. That's it. That's their own journey. That's their own insecurities, and has nothing to do with you. You
So
have to love yourself
inherently,
enough to know that.
we're humans, right? And we all want to be accepted and liked. In reality, it doesn't matter, like, how confident you are. So I know,
Yeah.
like, some people join the wrong crowds because they're so desperate to be accepted or want to be part of a certain crowd that's like negative. Um,
Yeah.
how do you tell somebody to, to get that self-confidence, I guess?
Again, it's all, it has everything to do with your inner work, changing that inner dialogue. There's nothing that anybody else can do for you. You cannot seek validation or happiness from other people. As long as you seek that, you depend on other people for your happiness and validation for yourself, you will never internally be happy. So everything has to start with yourself, changing that inner dialogue, being able to be honest with yourself, talking to yourself about your fears, about what you like about yourself, what you don't, and the things that you don't, how to productively change them. You have to change that inner dialogue, which tells you sometimes you're not good enough. We're so judgmental about ourselves. Start being kinder to yourself. Start being more compassionate. And I say this to a lot of my clients, when they say, I don't feel good enough, and this person said this, and I feel this. I'm like, imagine yourself as a little child. If that little child came to you and said, this is what's happening to me, I'm being bullied, or somebody's shaming me, and I don't feel good enough, what are you going to say to that child? You're going to be so compassionate, be there for that child, hug them, validate them. So do that for yourself. Be that parent for yourself that can self-soothe you. Be that parent that can validate you. Validate yourself. That's where it starts. And that's the only way that internal dialogue will change, and you will feel self-assured. And you have to keep doing it continuously. It's not an overnight thing. You just have to keep showing up for yourself.
So, I completely agree with you. It's all about inner peace and inner happiness and finding that.
Yeah.
And I know, like, I went through years, this was like years and years ago, and I went through that depression where you can't get out of bed or whatnot, or how I mean, I'll be completely honest with you. I talk about depression. I do suffer from depression time to time, and that's internal, and that's my own struggle and my own fight. But abuse is a whole different story. There may be people that are going through that, and I think, everybody listening, if you're in Pakistan, reach out to Maheen. She
Yeah.
can guide you. She can I'm sure there's other psychologists if you're overbooked or whatnot. But
You are not alone. I have to say that again and again. You're not. Whether it's illness, whether it's depression, whether it's chronic anxiety, whether it's just feelings of not feeling good enough, not being heard, you have to be able to reach out again, you know, and be there for yourself in terms of helping yourself heal.
yes.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad that you are being so strong and open about your own struggles, because I think somewhere somebody listening will look at you and say, wow, here she is. And if she can do it, then so can I.
Absolutely. I feel that the scary thing is that suicide is on a high these days. And I feel that if we can be honest, people like you and I, and put our voice out there, maybe someone will come to us and say, hey, I'm feeling this way. And I can be like, you know what? I was there once, or you were there once, or, you know, like how to come out of that
We
situation.
have all had dark moments. It's about being able to pass those dark moments and knowing that there are people that love you and support you. Of course, I think everybody's feeling anxious, and
Yes.
this pandemic has made us just times are so uncertain, right? We're all isolated, so of course everything is being triggered, which is why now more than ever it's important to know that I know it seems like an escape, and that in that moment the pain is so much, but that's never the answer. It is never the answer, and there will always be hope and love, and there will always be people that are willing to listen and be there for you.
So I know we're like coming up on time. So I wanted to ask you, the Maheen you are today, is it because of all of the obstacles that you'd faced in your life, or have you always been this strong?
No, I think I have to say it's because of the obstacles I've had to face. And there's a quote that I love: strong strong women are not born, they are created by the storms that they survive. And I think that's so true, and that's why I don't have regrets, because I think if I hadn't gone through everything that I've gone through and all the traumas, I wouldn't be who I am. I wouldn't be on this journey. I wouldn't have learned so much about myself. And like I said, now I'm in that place where I'm so proud of myself and everything that I've achieved. And I think I'll attract the right kind of people and be able to live the most authentic, evolved, secure life that I want to live. And that wouldn't have happened. And we all have struggles in our life. It's how we learn from them. It's how we are able to stand tall in those dark moments that really shape us. So, you know, just that's the message. We all go through struggles, we all go through hard times. There's always sunshine at the end of the road, and you just have to go through that journey, because that journey is making you stronger, and it's making you and turning you into a better human being, more evolved.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. And I think you learn to like respect yourself throughout the journey as well. Of course, you know, I want to thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much.
And I'm so excited. I can't wait for our friendship to evolve and get to know you better. And once this pandemic is lifted, you know, come visit us here in Houston.
And you come visit us here in Lahore, and that would be amazing. And let's do this sometime soon again. And
yes, I would love that.
As well.
Yeah, I would totally love that. I think this was very informative, and this is something that's very needed right now. So I would love to do this again.
Thank you so much, Sadaf.
No, thank you, Maheen.
All right, take care. Thank you again for having me. Lots of love.
Lots of love to you too, hon. Thank you so much, and thank you for watching, everybody.
Thank you for watching. Bye, guys.